Hey everyone, you're watching Ash on Comics. I'm Ash, and this is Twitter on my iPad. Yeah. Third time trying to record this. Been having some problems. First time I had my alarm go off. It just disrupted everything. And then the second time, my battery died. And I was just like, oh, I don't want to do it all, like try to piecemeal it together. So I'm just going to record it all over. Whatever. Hopefully it doesn't suck as bad the third time around. Hey, so normally I'm talking about comics. That's kind of what I try to focus on. I do support Comicsgate. I'm 100% for good comics. And I'm 100% against unprofessional pros telling customers and fans that they are Nazis and bigots. Which is the core thing of that Comicsgate is about. So in case anyone is not clear, has nothing to do with persons of color, women, homosexuals, none of that. It has nothing to do with any of that. It has to do with quality comics and professionalism towards fans who pay the money to the pros. You get that? Fans pay the money, pros take the money. So this tit for tat issue that I see all the time, like, oh, well, fans are just as bad. The fans aren't getting paid. Joe, you start paying me a paycheck every month, I will be as professional as possible. I will never say anything bad. In fact, I will say whatever you want me to say towards pros because you pay me. You get that? That's how that works. If I'm doing the paying, if I'm paying you, I get to say whatever I want. That's how that works. You want to flip it? You want to say whatever you want. You pros want to tell me that I'm an asshole, that I'm a Nazi. You want to do that? Pay me. I'll take it. I won't complain. All right, anyways. That's just a pre-rant. So, anyways, normally I don't review or talk about Comicsgate too much. Sometimes I'll get off on it in one of my other videos about a comic. But I don't talk about it too much, and the primary reason why is I started these videos to talk about comics because I was inspired to get back into comics this year from people like Diversity in Comics, who's the primary person, also inspired by EVS, a little bit of Yellow Flash, that Umbrella Guy, some smaller YouTubers like Number One Marmaduke fan, one of my personal favorites who's got a very small audience, but I think he deserves more attention is Trajan Channel. Although I think he knows that his channel is not... He doesn't do a lot of videos. He's kind of like me. So I think if he tried harder, he'd be a lot bigger. But he's just got his own life going on, and he just sort of does this once in a while on the side. Anyways, Diversity in Comics is the big one. And it's not because he goes off all the time about SJWs and all this stuff, which I appreciate. It's his passion for comics that got me. I was a big-time collector back in the 80s and 90s. Then I got out during the big comic bubble bust and moved on with my life. But I never stopped loving comics. It's just I moved on and what have you. I kept a little attention to it, got some stuff out of movies and TV, and followed along from the sidelines. But in recent years, I haven't wanted to get back into comics because what I was starting to see from the sidelines was horrific. I was not collecting comics when I saw Captain America become a Nazi, but I was like, holy shit, what the F is going on? You know, I'm so glad I'm not collecting comics. I'd be so pissed. I am pissed that I don't collect comics. So fast forward a couple years, see on YouTube this community going on, see people like Diversity in Comics, who I also really admire because they're not angry. You know, Zach's not an angry guy. I mean, he's not happy with the way things are, but he's not like an old, bitter, get off my lawn, you old crazy comic SJW. He's not like, he roasts them. He makes fun of them. He's just like, you guys are ruining comics. He laughs at them. I feel like a little bit of crying on the inside because he's seeing something that he loves get destroyed by them, but it's not an angry vicious type of thing, which is what they make him out to be. Totally a lie. If you watch his videos, he's got thousands of them. He's a pretty jovial person. He will point out things that are not acceptable, but that's perfectly fair. So anyways, he's a great voice. Ethan Van Sciver's a great voice in his own right, in a different way. There's no real reason for me to add to it. I don't have anything better to say. So, oh, and by the way, shout out to Captain Cummings. I don't know if he's watching this. Captain Cummings was the first supporter of my channel. I really miss him on Twitter, and I should have mentioned him in the beginning. He just, since he's not on Twitter, he didn't come up top of my head. But that is a big guy too. I don't have anything. These guys are doing it better than me. What do I have to say? I made my channel, though, because I wanted to talk about comics. I love comics. I like reading comics. But I don't want to just go to the store, get my comics, read them. Sharing it with the community, sharing that enjoyment with other people, seeing other people love the things that you love, talking about them, ranting about the things that you don't like. It's all good. It's fun. Sharing that shared experience makes the hobby even better. That social experience. I think you all kind of know. So I made this channel to kind of jump in on the social scene and just kind of throw my voice out there, and if anyone wanted to listen, they could. And so here we go. Now Zach's kind of faded back a little bit. He's not talking about SJWs as much, and EVS has gone a whole different direction with his anti-Star Wars rhetoric, which I'm not really on board with. And now he's got his whole Caesar and this war campaign stuff that, look, that's his deal. Everyone's free to do what they want to do. Cool. I'm not anti-EVS or anything. I still like the guy a lot. I communicate with him a little bit here and there. And every once in a while I do listen to his videos when his topic is in line with what I'm interested in. You get that saying? So, anyways, in this particular case, I just didn't want to, I couldn't keep my mouth shut. I was like, I got to say something. I read Joe Quesada's tweets last night, and I was like, I haven't seen anyone talking about it, and so I just wanted to get my voice out there. And that's what this video is about. A little bit about Joe Quesada, a little bit more also about Comicsgate and kind of my view on it, and let's just go. So, a little backstory first. About a week ago, Joe Quesada made this big tweet, big chain tweet, talking about Comicsgate. And he mostly kind of addressed diversity in comics, as if diversity in comics is, the big ringleader, and we're just all, subjects of his. And I tried to tweet Joe with good faith. I think one of the mistakes we make as Comicsgate supporters is that we tend to see red too quickly. We see someone saying anything negative about Comicsgate, and we're just like, how dare you, USJW, and we just lash back. And I get it, we're reactionary because we've had a lot of shit thrown at us. That's bad. Most of the people saying negative things about Comicsgate are people that don't even really know much about Comicsgate. They're getting that information secondhand from other people. And as you know, a lot of that stuff's lies. So I try to take that into consideration every time. And I encourage all of you guys to do the same thing. Don't. If you start lashing out at everyone that questions Comicsgate or has anything negative, you're just going to feed into that narrative. This is the narrative that Comicsgaters are bigots, they're assholes, and if you get a third-party guy going, I don't know, I heard you guys are a bunch of bigots and assholes, and they're like, oh, F you, fuck, their reaction is going to be like, yeah, I guess they're right. You got to think that way. So I saw Joe Quesada as this guy who's like, this is way below his pay grade, right? He's off making TV shows, movies, he's just whatever. He didn't have time to be in the trenches. But these people that he's worked with for years, this whole rhetoric has made its way up high enough to finally get to him. And DNC has made a couple good videos talking about the organization and how there's some collusion, la 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 la. That has, I think, some merit to it. Whatever. So he makes this tweet, and he's talking about different things about Comicsgate and blah, blah, blah. And I made a lot of responses, trying to call him out, because a lot of his stuff was wrong. And I tried to be in good faith and under the assumption of, like, look, you're wrong, but I don't think you're being malicious. I think you're just misled. You're just being innocent. You just have the wrong impression. So I argued in good faith with him. I tried to maintain polite composure, because I know if I start being disparaging, if my tone of voice is bad or whatever, he has no reason to listen to what I have to say. So I did that. Now, he did not respond to any of my tweets, which, right, who am I for him to respond to? Fair enough. But I was hoping he would at least respond to the argument. It doesn't matter who I am. If my point is valid, respond. If it's invalid, respond to that. Respond and tell me why my point's invalid so we can have a dialogue. But what's happened is he swept it under the rug. But more to the point is I was not alone. There was a lot of other people that were making the same points. He didn't respond to any of those. Did not want to engage with fair argument. He only would engage with what he understood or what he believed. And this is called confirmation bias. So he thinks Comicsgate is a bunch of assholes. Okay, because he has this impression. Now, if an asshole responds and makes an ass of himself, this is an example of something Joe would respond to because it fits within his confirmation bias, and he'd be like, aha, see, look, this is what I thought, la, la, la. If someone would respond politely with a well-reasoned argument and say, hey, Joe, I respectfully ask you to reconsider your belief here and that you're being misinformed, and here's the actual case, la, 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 it's like, does not compute, this is not fit with what I understand, disengage, and just pretend it never happened. That seemed to be his MO. And I was a little disappointed. But whatever. I wrote a tweet a few days ago, just tweeted out straight to Joe Quesada saying, hey, you know what? You did this. You came out. You actually communicated. I wish you would have done more and listened more, but the outreach is very appreciated, and it's more than we've seen from Marvel in years. Something to that effect, like, look, this is all stuff that should be coming from CB Cebulski. Why is Joe getting involved? Where's the editor-in-chief? So I sent a nice, look, here's the deal. Thanks for being involved. Hopefully you'll get more involved. This is all positive, la, la, la. Of course, didn't get a response to that. Not even a like, whatever. Just ignored. So then I see this. And, well, actually not this. Not what I'm pointing at. This was, he posted this, which is now on his pin up. Like, he has this pinned on his page. And I responded, so Joe, actually, you know what? Let me read this. Stan's Soapbox. From time to time, we receive letters from readers who wonder why there's so much moralizing in our mags. They take great pains to point out that comics are supposed to be escapist reading and nothing more. But somehow, I can't see it that way. It seems to me that a story without a message, however subliminal, is like a man without a soul. In fact, even the most escapist literature of all, old-time fairy tales and heroic legends, contain moral and philosophical points of view. At every college campus where I speak, there's as much discussion of war and peace, civil rights, and the so-called youth rebellion as there is of our Marvel mags per se. None of us lives in a vacuum. None of us is untouched by the everyday events about us, events which shape our stories just as they shape our lives. Sure, our tales can be called escapist, but just because something's for fun doesn't mean we have to blanket our brains while we read it. Excelsior, Stan Lee. So Joe pinned this, and I believe it. I love Stan Lee. I think Stan Lee is the reason for modern comics the way they are, and the reason for the fandom that we have today. And I think Stan, if Comicsgate ever did have a leader, if we ever did rally behind someone to say, speak for us, it would be Stan Lee. There's no one else qualified. And having said that, I'll take these little soapboxes you want to post and try to tell me, here's what Stan said. Okay, I'm fair. By the way, his tweet. Breaking news, this just in from 1970? So I reply, so, Joe Quesada, if Stan's Marvel from the 70s was the example to live by, why then are we seeing current Marvel... Why are we then... I can't even read my own writing. Why then are we seeing current SJW Marvel undoing everything and reforming it into a new image? If Marvel wasn't broke, then what are you fixing? Everyone loves that old Marvel. That's what CG is about. So, here's the deal. And this got my skin crawling. Not crawling, but it just got me like the hair up on the back of my neck. I cannot stand when SJWs try to pull this crap. They always try to dehumanize the opposition. They try to make us look like evil Nazis and bigots and like, this is what we're for, and this is what Stanley... No, this is what we're for. You are not for this. This is a cover for your agenda. Let's point this out. Old fairy tales of heroic legends and moral philosophical points of view. Discussions of war and peace. Comics fans, everyone in Comicsgate, I will speak for them. I will take the liberty of speaking for them, even though it's not my place. All of them want heroes. They want good, tales of good and evil. They want morality in their comics. They want superheroes like Superman being the Boy Scout. They want patriots like Captain America showing what patriotism should be, and now it's not nationalism. They want Spider-Man saving, kitty cats in trees for little old ladies. They want goodness in their books, this morality. That is completely different than Spider-Man, Peter Parker, sitting on the couch without a job, leeching off his next hookup because he can't be married to Mary Jane. God forbid a marriage actually worked correctly in a fantasy world. No, we got to break that up too. You got to have a broken marriage, and then Spider-Man sleeping around with all the different female superheroines of the Marvel Universe and living off her dime while he's wearing her t-shirt saying, ask me about my feminist agenda. That's not what Peter Parker's about, and that's not morality. It's not morality saying, oh, well, Captain America is a white guy, and white guys are bad. White privilege, we gotta make them black. That's not morality. None of this is anything. You'll never see Stan Lee talking about this stuff. You'll never see Stan Lee saying there's not enough gays in the comics, and you gotta have more trans representation. We gotta have a comic where Iceman is running around not just being gay. No one cares so much that Iceman's gay, is that his comic has turned around him doing nothing but talking about how gay he is and about hooking up with guys. We don't even want to see straight comics that way. That's not morality. Sitting there and talking about your sex life and having hookup culture is not morality. That's not what comics are about. That's not what any of us in Comicsgate want, no matter what your sexual orientation or beliefs are. So Iceman running around being like, oh, I'm so gay, I can't wait to hook up with a guy and get it on. Why am I reading this? Why does anyone want to read this? Now look, there may be a place for those type of comics. I'm not saying that anyone who wants that type of comic can't have it, that I'm the comic police. What I'm saying is that's not Iceman. I supported Marvel Comics for decades. Other people have supported Marvel Comics for decades. Iceman was a certain way for 60 years. They're a fan of this Iceman. And for you to just hijack the character and change him to support some sort of social agenda, that's not correct. You want to make a brand new character, and you want to have him be that way for the audience that wants that, be my guest. I won't complain. Comicsgate is not about that. We're not complaining about that. DC has changed up their Vertigo line to be what we perceive as mostly SJW comics. I've been a big advocate for this because I go, look, fine, I'm all for an imprint. You want to make an imprint that's just SJW comics, and that's the name of it? Fine. Comics are for everyone. Everyone should have their comics. What they don't do is not everyone gets to take whatever comics they want from someone else. Do you get that? Do you see the difference? Do you see that you can be against war and for peace? Those are morals. But the politics of why war exists or why peace exists are different. And not everyone agrees on those politics. And comics rarely ever entered that space. And when they did, people got a little bit uppity. And usually comics would reel back. You can say, well, Ash, what about X-Men? X-Men's big morality, social agenda with racism. Yeah, it was subtle. It was fake. No one is bigoted towards mutants. Do you get this? Nobody is bigoted towards mutants. They don't exist. So it addressed bigotry without ever telling the fan, you're a bigot. That's the difference today. The difference today is we have comics saying, white privilege is a problem. And if you disagree with this, you are this. You couldn't have that problem in the past with mutants because they don't exist. The bigotry towards mutants doesn't exist. So no one can be offended. It was able to tell a message of morality about racism and bigotry without actually pointing a finger at any one reader. Okay, so my rant's getting a little much. This is bullshit. I will give... Sorry, Stan's soapbox is not bullshit. Joe Quesada's agenda here, it's misled. From the 70s. Oh, from the 70s, let's stick with it. Let's go back to this, Joe. That's what we want. So, you see if I can find the other thing I wanted. So Joe made another series of tweets just last night, echoing the one that he did a week ago. But this time, I don't see it. I'm not giving him the benefit of the doubt like I did before. I still don't think he's an SJW, and I don't think he's trying to be disparaging. But I do think that he is not being open-minded or in good faith. I do think he is prejudiced, and I do think he has bought in on the agenda. So here we go. Attention, true believers. I've got some awful news. This is going to be a fairly long thread, so bear with me. It's true. It's all true. Marvel's only producing a very small handful of straight-up superhero adventure stories. Right from this tweet, you can already sense the disingenuousness of it. Look at his tone. Awful news. It's going to be long. Bear with me. It's all true. This fake drama, he knows who he's talking to, and he's presuming how we feel, and he's adding his little sarcasm to it. This is intellectual dishonesty. But I did some digging and managed to find a few books you might like, so it's not all bad news. Admittedly, they can be easily overlooked, especially if one listens to the complaints about the social politics in the majority of our entire line. Oh, I wonder who you could be talking about, Joe. Could you be talking about diversity in comics? I think you are, because you can't get him off your brain, even though you won't actually listen to him. Mind you, this list is subjective. Some may still find objectionable titles, like those with the baked-in mutant metaphor. It is all in the eye of the beholder, right? Now, I just talked about the mutant metaphor. Joe apparently doesn't understand it. Even though he uses the word metaphor, there's a difference between metaphor and blatant social politics. Metaphor. So here we go. Not counting posters, collections, and 10 licensed titles like Star Wars, etc., we have 70 comics shipping in November. 70 comics. This number also includes a few titles that will ship 2 or 3 times in a month. 3 times in a month. Right off the bat, I'm taking 5 off this list, as these titles have been maligned by certain YouTubers and factions for being too political or having an agenda, whatever that means. I also like that he never calls anyone out, certain YouTubers. This is a tactic that you do when you don't want to have to prove yourself, right? See, if you accuse someone of saying something, you better have some sort of proof that they said it, otherwise you're slandering. SJW is running this issue all the time where they don't actually have it. They heard someone did something, and so then they repeat it, and I heard so-and-so did this. Actually, that was a lie. That never happened. No, it's not. Okay, well, good. Then show us where it happened. I shouldn't have to prove it to you. Here, with thousands of YouTube videos going up all the time, like, it could just be anything. I don't know what he's seen or what he hasn't seen. But if he had said maligned by DNC, all of a sudden, boom, there's an argument. Did DNC do it? Yes or no? Is Joe lying? We can call him out on it. He knows better. There's another batch that are great adventure stories that I have picked up from time to time because of the characters, that have been picked on from time to time because of the characters used or the actions in the creator's politic, I'm not reading correctly. Because of the characters used or the perception of the creator's politics, yada yada. So I'm pulling them off the list as well. I mean, because of the characters used, no one has a problem with characters. What characters you used. It's how you use them, right? We hate Captain Marvel, not because we want to hate Captain Marvel, but she's freaking stupid, and you made her stupid, and you keep doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on her, no matter what negative reaction you get. And so it's like, oh, they just don't like that character. Yeah. We don't like what you... She's a fictional character. She's exactly whatever you put into her. There are times when Captain Marvel was cool, but you decide not to use that. You know, America, no one complained about America until Gabby Rivera's series on her, where Gabby turned her into a complete, raging, racist, psychopath, anti-straight bigot. It was obscene that how this character was. No one complained about America before. People were like, oh, it's America's problem. No, Gabby Rivera was the problem. There we go. The perception of the creator's politics. Oh, I'm sorry. Is my perception of the politics wrong when Gabby's writing that every white person in the comic is bad and the hero of the comic book is making disparaging remarks against white people? It's my politics now, Joe. Is that what you're saying? It's my politics. It's my fault. So all in all, it's pretty depressing news because it only leaves us with, oh, and here we go. Of course, Joe's like, oh, here's the sarcasm. Look what we got. Guardians of the Galaxy. So stupid. Look at Silly Billy. We played on words. And it's a bunch of characters we all hate. And it's Black Order. No one knows. Deadpool is getting ruined as we speak because your overuse of this character and your inability to put any competence behind it. It's arguably your most popular character. This guy has supplanted Wolverine as your most popular character, and you are doing the same thing you're doing to Wolverine. You are just running him into the ground. Death of Inhumans, which is a Donny Cates book, doesn't count because Donny Cates is your anomaly that you should not have. He is way too good for Marvel. You are lucky, and so anything that Donny Cates is doing, count your blessings. Any fans that are buying Donny Cates books could have these books yanked out at any moment, and Donny could be reassigned to something else and changed, and then what happens? So, yeah, that doesn't work. If Death of the Humans this doesn't even matter. This is a mini-series. Let's use Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange, Donny Cates book. Then we hand it off to Mark Waid. Oh, Mark Waid! Perception of politics. Could you maybe address the allegations of tortious interference by Mark Waid against not one but two minority-owned publishers? Because they don't simply for not going out of their way to support the SJW politics of the majority of the industry. That's all. That's their crime. Oh, man. Immortal Hulk, done by a creator who shows tons of contempt for his fans. Why would anyone want to buy his book? I don't know, perceived politics. No, it's perceived. No one wants to buy a burger from someone who spits in it. Infinity Wars, you're just capitalizing on this infinity nonsense that is just out of control. No one cares about except for the movies. Marvel Knights 20th. Oh, okay, so great. Marvel Knights was good stuff. It should actually, there should be a whole line of Marvel Knights. Why is there just 20th anniversary towards this? Because this is what comics skaters want, but you won't give it. Spider-Geddon is retarded. Typhoid Fever X-Men. There's not enough X-Men books, but we need more excuses. We need number ones. And by the way, let's look at all these books. How many of these books are number ones or were number ones within the last few months? All of them? All of them? All of them? Oh, X-Men Red was maybe a year ago as a number one. Amazing Spider-Man, number one. Canceled for no reason. Amazing Spider-Man 800, big anniversary, 800, 801, boom, number one. Just so they could sell people tons of shitty comics. Avengers maybe fits in the description. And by the way, he's not talking about good comics. All he's saying is these are comics that depict great adventure stories. Okay, so I'll give you Avengers. It's not my cup of tea. I don't think it's good enough, but some people are enjoying it, and it fits their description. Donny Cates. As soon as Donny Cates leaves, this is crap, and everyone who supported it is left hanging to dry. Daredevil. I'll give you credit for this one, even though the art is garbage. I would never buy this. It is not worth $3.99. It is. Oh, look, more Infinity Wars. Peter Parker Spider-Man, from what I understand, is about to get the Amazing Spider-Man treatment, and it's just going to stop and be rebooted to number one so that you can be charged a ton of money. Amazing Spider-Man was $10. $10 with multiple, how many, 30, 40 different variant covers? I don't even remember. It was a retarded amount. Get ready for more, fans. SpiderMan Deadpool. Because we're not making enough Spider-Man books, we're not making enough Deadpool books, we got to make a Spider-Man and a Deadpool book. So irrelevant, silly, stupid. Thor. Maybe I give you credit for Thor, but you left What's-Her-Face still alive instead of killing her. And so, alright, had a break in the video here. I was talking about Thor. I gave credit on Thor. Even though he's still unworthy apparently, and Jane Foster could come back. Currently, I guess. I don't know, whatever. Uncanny X-Men, 3 issues. You have four X-Men titles, not counting all these other spin-off nonsense bullshit titles. You're bringing back Uncanny X-Men. Because apparently just a title is all that matters. No quality. Nothing matters, but it's called Uncanny X-Men. You're going to have 3 issues because you're going to get as many issues out there before everyone knows how much they've been conned. You have a 5th. That's a 5th X-Men issue. X-Men Black will be the 6th X-Men issue. None of the current X-Men issues sell much more than 30,000 issues. They're already that's cancellation ranges for DC, by the way. Below 30,000 issues. DC cancels titles. But Marvel, that's just this used to be the flagship. This used to be the gold standard. Everyone wanted to be Uncanny X-Men. It was so good and successful. This is a joke. Vault of Spiders. Okay, Donny Cates. As soon as Donny Cates leaves this, erase. Garbage X-Men. Look, more Infinity Wars. Return of Wolverine. You wouldn't need a Return of Wolverine if you didn't find a need to replace him with 2 female Wolverines. Not 1. 2 female Wolverines. Because a male Wolverine is problematic. with his testosterone and white privilege. But killing off your most famous character, it'd be like DC killing Batman. This is stupid. So eventually you had to bring him back, and it's like, oh look, pat us on the back for trying to fix our screw up. This is stupid. Now I hear it's fire. I don't even know if is this Fireclaw thing real? Because it sounds so ludicrous that it can't be real, but people are talking about it like it's real. Whatever. Spider Force? What the hell is this? We have a team. Dumb. Punisher. Tony Stark, Iron Man. This only exists because you effed up Iron Man so bad that you had to make a title with Tony Stark in front of it because people wouldn't buy. They got to know. You should put not Riri Iron Man is what that really should be. Weapon H, Gimmick, Hulk, Wolverine, Hulk. Some people actually like this, so I'll give you credit for this as being adventure stories because some people say it's fun, whatever. Web of Venom, this is just cash, this is, you're just, I forget what the term for this is, when you're just cashing in. Black Panther Deadpool, again, because Black Panther won't sell. You gotta pair him with someone who's popular so we can have Black Panther. Notice there is no Black Panther book listed. Dead Man Logan, because Old Man Logan isn't good enough anymore. Now he's dead. Extermination is just a gimmick miniseries to somehow foster in the Uncanny X-Men. There's already existing X-Men. Why does there need... this is so stupid. Fantastic Four is just garbage. Infinity Wars, more Infinity Wars. Marvel 2-in-1, which should be Fantastic Four, but it's not. So there should replace. This should either be Fantastic Four or this should be Fantastic Four, and this should be a new batch of characters. But they should have just had Zdarsky take his writing and his art team from this, transition it to here, and then give Dan Slott a 2-in-1 on. Now he does someone. Maybe he can do Deadpool, Spider-Man. Oh wait, there you have a book. Old Man Hawkeye, credit. This one you get credit for, even though it's a miniseries. Spider-Girls. Look, stupid. Oh, well, you're just a misogynist, Ash. You just don't like women. No, Spider-Woman's fine. She's been around, since the 70s? No one complains about Spider-Woman. But why does there need to be, 5 other Spider-Girls? Why? Because it's just Spider is popular, and Peter Parker is just a white male, and is privileged, and he's problematic. And so we need to make them girls, make more girls, and just keep giving them Spider, because we're not the House of Ideas anymore. But you know what? We're going to try to sell this off as good adventure comics. That's 51 superhero adventure books out of 70. That number is obviously somewhat higher or lower depending on your point of view and tastes. Really? Depending on your point of view. Yes, those are 51 superhero adventure books. On the outside. And then when you open up and you read them, they are trash for the most part. Unless their name was Donny Cates as a writer, or Old Man Hawkeye. You had a few exceptions to the rule. I'll say that number, subtract 40 from that number, maybe you're correct. Out of 70. Or if a portion of your income happens to be based on inflaming and inciting fans to think otherwise, in which case that number is probably closer to nil. And oh yeah, comics are dying. They are dying, Joe. They are. You cannot argue the numbers. XMen selling 30,000 copies. 30,000, Joe. XMen. There are some months where the top comic does not breach the 100,000 mark on sales. You guys at Marvel are rebooting anything and everything to a new number one. Even Amazing Spider-Man, which was just going along comfortably, was your flagship title. Oh, gotta make it, start it over for no reason, number one. Get those sales, make it a $10 issue. You guys are signaling full panic mode. And then you're writing tweets out here, oh, comics is dying. This is pure denial. Comics aren't just dying. Marvel Comics is killing them. And you sit here on your Twitter and deny it. These 51 are solely, in my opinion, of course. But I bet if someone did the same math at DC, the numbers would pretty much be the same. But the concern at hand, fuck, that's not a lot of straight-up superhero adventure books. And maybe some people are trying to mislead you. No, DC does not have 51 because they don't print as many comics as Marvel. However, a much, much larger percentage of the comics they do print, the ratios do fit that description. Furthermore, DC has good writing and good art. Even furthermore, the percentage of books that have social agenda and SJWism just in your face telling readers that they are bad is next to nil. It's next to nil. Sometimes they get a little bit like the silly billiness, like you read Batgirl or whatever, and it'll be like, like a girly comic. I don't consider a girly comic SJW. I consider you telling me that I'm a racist bigot because of my white privilege in a comic book offensive and has no place asking for my $3.99. Oh yeah, and by the way, while DC is making better art and better writing in their comics, not doing that, many of their comics are only $2.99. And the ink doesn't rub off on your fingers, Joe. Marvel was the flagship, and you're running it into the ground. Maybe not you personally, but the team that's running Marvel, that's running it in the ground, and you're sitting here just waving the banner saying, oh, Marvel's great. Good. You're such a good company, man. They pay you well. Joe Quesada, because it's the true narrative that Marvel no longer publishes these type of books? Or is it simply a quickly becoming tiresome and obviously false narrative that one doesn't even remotely take into entirety of the Marvel line into account or focus? Case in point, I was watching a certain YouTuber last week reviewing a book and ranting about the dreaded SJWs he claims have infested the comic book industry, a rant that I had sadly heard several times before. I'm sure this video that I'm making right now is a rant you've heard many times before as well. What I find most interesting about this rant is that if you switch out the word racist with SJW, it perfectly describes the entire false narrative as well as his entire business model. So let's do that. Let's replace the words. How about you identify who the person is and the video is so we can actually review it ourselves, Joe, so we can have an honest dialogue instead of you just pulling something out of your ass and saying a certain person said these things and I'm going to cherry pick. This person, first of all, I don't even know who it is. Could be a total lunatic. It could be an SJW plant because they've been known many times to infiltrate Comicsgate just to make shit. I'm trying to think of the guy off the top of my head. What was it, Late Night Comics? Did Late Night Comics make a video and you pick it and say, look, here's Comicsgate, because he was purposely misrepresenting Comicsgate? Alright, so here's the rant. If you don't hate SJWs, which was originally racist apparently, you love it. You find it exciting. If you find it entertaining, it energizes you. Don't pretend to be offended by the thing you looked for and were happy to find. So what he's trying to say is that the original person said in their video, you don't hate racists, you love it, you find it exciting, you find it entertaining, it energizes you. We do see that in SJWs. We do see them looking for racism around every corner, and they find it because they're looking for it. Or they find what they think they say, I didn't like it when Captain America was replaced by Falcon. You're a racist! Well, it is possible that someone could think that opinion because of racist reasons, and it's also highly possible they could think it because they just don't like the character of Falcon being Captain America. But here's the deal. this doesn't really apply with SJWs. I don't see anyone looking for SJWs and loving to find them and getting energized. Right? Like, I see a lot of us just wanting to talk about comics, and then all of a sudden, Max Bemis is making a post about eating his ass. And then we all get offended because this guy is a Marvel professional. And then when we rant and rave, hey, we're tired of these Marvel professionals treating us like shit, and comics are a fucking expensive hobby. We pay a lot of money, and we want to enjoy it. And these people tell us we're racist and we're bigots and all this stuff. Can someone do something about it? And we get ignored by people like you, Joe, by the editor-in-chief. You ignore your customers. We're not energized by this. So, yeah. We're not happy to find it. We're just desperate. We want someone like you to fucking grab the reins and be like, enough of this shit. I don't necessarily side with Comicsgate, but they're customers, and we need to listen to them. And even if they're wrong, we need to help them find the way to be right by being diplomatic and showing them we respect their value as fans and customers. Not being lectured here by someone who doesn't even know what the fuck's going on. It seems there are too many adventure stories to support the narrative. Certainly much more than I would have thought if I had been prone to believe a single word that came out of his mouth, and the tiny group of comics pros that use it as the excuse of their self-imposed exile. I almost said something. Joe, this is straight up bullshit. Self-imposed exile? Let me describe a self-imposed exile. What you would call self-imposed exile. There's a comics professional named Donald DeLay. He's not a big name. He's an up-and-comer. He's trying to make his name for himself. He wants to get into comics. He loves comics. He was working with another person named Justin Jordan, who he had previously done a comic book before with. He was writing this new book. I forget the name of it. And he had done 5 months worth of art. And it looked fantastic. Donald DeLay had been getting the same thing that you've been getting, and everyone else in the industry, a bunch of bullshit narrative about Comicsgate, how we're a bunch of racist bigots, and that we're the problem of the industry. Donald, rather than just listen to whatever anyone tells him and being a mind slave, decided, oh wow, that seems terrible. I'm going to go look at this for myself and see what it's all about. So he went and did an investigation. In his investigation, he started following diversity in comics because, just like you, Joe, that's the person you would think to go to because that's who you hear about. So he went. He started watching his videos. Diversity in Comics immediately sent him a DM saying, please, thank you for following me, but please stop following me. I care about your career. You are going to get harassed. You are going to get smeared for following me. You don't understand what you're getting into. La da da. Donald said, thank you for your concern. I understand. But I don't think that should happen to someone who simply for following another person. And if someone would blacklist me simply for following another person, I don't want to be around that person anyway. To which Diversity in Comics tried to urge him further, saying, look, you it's worse than that. You don't understand. And he said, okay, well, thank you, concern, whatever. Donald then made a tweet saying that simply, and this is paraphrasing, that he took a look for himself and did not find Diversity in Comics to be the monster that everyone made him out to be. At which point, Justin Jordan, who was partnered with, who had done work with before, canceled the project that Donald had already done 5 months of work for. Colored, penciled, inked, and colored artwork. Just dropped it. immediately after this happened, the entire professional industry blacklisted him and started treating him like just the worst evil that there was. It's I can't even put into words, Joe, how terrible and ugly and ridiculous. And you label this as self-imposed. I am so mad. I want to say, so you need to really reconsider your stance here. You are wrong, and you are excusing evil. You are complicit. You are being complicit with this. These pros are not self-imposed. Oh, man. Thanks for sticking with the thread. By the way, thanks for sticking with this video if you're still watching. And I hope this helps put things into perspective. There have always been those predicting the end of comics. Now there are a small few making money from it. Now let's go out and read some cool comics. Love y'all. Could that be more phony? Love y'all. I don't see any love towards us at all. I see a lecture from self-imposed dad who decides that we need to be taught a thing or two and we don't know what we're talking about. Joe, it's you who don't know what you're talking about. Clearly. And I don't say this in a malicious way. I say it in as you came onto this hearing a little bit of hearsay. You did a few Google searches and decided now you know what you're talking about and you're going to lecture us. This has been going on for years, Joe. Years. All right, we've got the receipts and evidence to show you the terrible things that has been coming out of comics pros. You don't address a single one of them. That is called bad faith. You are not here to address both sides of the story and give the benefit of the doubt. You are here to tell us your way and how the rest of us are wrong. And your biggest sin is that you don't know what you're talking about. You just have a high position in the industry. That doesn't make you an expert. And I'm very sad that you, being such a prominent ex-editor-in-chief of Marvel, are so distanced from the fans. And you have an opportunity here to do something good. I mean, you saved Marvel once. Not maybe from doom, but you... And now, I don't know what you're doing. And this is terrible. You guys, that was what I wanted to say about Joe Quesada's comments. I got a little bit upset and heated on a few things. I know this is long. Thank you for taking the time to hear me out, even if there's just a few of you. If you have anything to say to me, I would love to address that and talk some more. Thank you to everyone that gives me your time of day. I appreciate it. Like and subscribe if you do, and I hope to see you again. Bye.